But what about if we allow her to come to the masjid? Then what is this about the last row of the men being the one with the greatest evil, and the first row of the women being the one with the greatest evil? This is Sahih Muslim. Did I tell you that? Did I tell you that this hadith is in Sahih Muslim? Did I say it? Yes. I did? Well then it is Sahih. Alright? Nobody can take it out of Sahih Muslim now, too late. You have to deal with this hadith. The only way we can understand this hadith, the only way it will have any meaning, is because the women were praying behind the men. That's the only way. The women were praying behind the men. They were not praying in an annex. They were not praying in the basement. They were not praying in an upstairs gallery. They were not praying at the side. In Trinidad, I grew up, all my life I grew up with a screen in the masjid, and women praying on one side and men on the other side. No? And as a boy I could remember sometimes the first row of the men might have to go back one row or come forward one row. So the Imam would call out to the women to inform them so that they could remain in the same row, go back or come forward. So men and women were praying in one saf with a piece of cloth in between. This is what I grew up with. If any of these things prevail, then we have in fact denied woman the right that Allah gave to her. And Nabi Muhammad ﷺ has spoken of in this hadith that women must pray at the back and men at the front. So Wednesday night we had the Christian-Muslim dialogue at the University of Cape Town. The bishop, the Christian bishop, introduced me to his wife. So she put out her hand. So I said, excuse me, we don't shake hands, but we give you a nice smile. Excuse me, we don't shake hands, but I'll give you a nice smile. And she liked it. As soon as I did that, somebody else came and put out his hand for shaking her hand. A Muslim. She's puzzled. And she withdrew her hand. She didn't shake hands with him. She didn't shake hands with him. So I said to the bishop, here we are. We're going to perform salat now. And you can see the sheets arranged there. And the women are going to pray at the back and the men at the front. So the wife of the bishop is querying why the woman at the back. What answer to give? What answer to give? So I said, well, if the women are at the front and the men at the back, the men won't be able to concentrate. So the bishop stroked his head. He says, yes, I can understand. The men won't be able to concentrate if the woman at the front. It makes sense, doesn't it? So by putting the woman at the back, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not giving to the woman an inferior position. No. She can perform her salah with men in front of her. And she can concentrate. But we cannot perform our salah with women in front of her. We won't be able to concentrate. But why the evil? If the women at the back and the men are at the front, Why is it that the last row of the men have the most evil and the first row of the women have the greatest shar? Because that's the hadith I quoted for you. There's only one way to understand that. Only one. And that is that as the row of men keep on going backwards, and the rows of the women keep on coming forward, eventually they will approach each other and be close to each other. And because of the physical proximity of men and women, there are sparks which fly when men and women are close to each other. That's where the danger lies. Oh, I see. Well, that means that there was no barrier between the men and women. Because if you put up a barrier between the men and the women, then there will be no physical proximity. They will not be drawing close to each other. And therefore you can take this hadith and put it in the cold storage. Yeah, take this hadith and put it in the cold storage. Because there is no longer any question of shar. That's common sense. So that means that in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, men and women performed their salah in the masjid, number one. Men prayed at the front and women prayed at the back. Number two, there was no barrier between the men and the women. Number three, and therefore the conclusion is that men and women prayed in the same space, not in two separate spaces, in the same space, with the men at the front and the women at the back. But that's not all. There is more. You may not have ever heard it, because this hadith has been put into the cold storage of the fridge. It's no longer relevant today. What is it? He said, when you go down in sajda, the woman must remain in sajda longer than the men. You never heard this, did you? Never heard it. It's there. Some of you are shaking your heads. When you go down in sajda, in salat in the masjid, the woman must remain in sajda longer than the men. Because a man may not have enough cloth to cover his private parts. I was teaching this subject to the woman, so when I came to this part, I just said, may not have enough cloth to cover himself, but because you're men in front of me, I can give you the hadith as it is. A man may not have enough cloth to cover his private parts. And when he goes down in sajda, if the woman raises her head too quickly, then this sight would be there before her, which is inappropriate. And so he commanded the woman to remain in sajda longer than the men. Do not raise your head at the same time that the men are raising their head. This is the religion of Islam that came from Nabi Muhammad ﷺ. And the religion of Islam comes from him. There is only one way that we can understand this hadith. And that is that when women prayed at the back of men, if a woman raised her head too quickly, that there be no barrier between her and the men. None. And therefore she could see. that the man is not fully covered. So she's praying with both her ears and her eyes. If you put a barrier between the men and the women, or if you put the woman in the basement, or in an annex, or in an upstairs gallery, tell me, why should she remain in sajda along with the men? Give me one good reason why we should take that hadith out of the cold storage where we put it now, having changed the religion. Do you see the storm that is coming 20, 30 years from now? Are you seeing what they're going to be arguing right here in Cape Town? You might be in your grave sleeping, so you wouldn't witness that storm, that evil storm that will sweep away Cape Town. But your son will be there. And what you're doing is digging a grave for your own children tomorrow. When the woman will be quoting these ahadith that I am now quoting. And the women are going to be saying, you denied us our rights in the house of Allah. And so what could we do? We're going to build our own masjid for women. And a woman will be on the mimbar, and she'll give the khutbah, she'll lead the salah. You can't stop her, because you open the door for Dajjal to exploit this opportunity.